Okay, so what's the news of the week? Whoa, I heard that we're going to pretty much double the amount of vaccines we produce per month. This month is going to be 132 million people. We're going to be doubling the number of people. That's amazing. 132 million. Look, this vaccine, this COVID 19, hopefully within the next 3 to 6 months, is going to become, hey, Henry, hey, Ade, good to see you guys. This COVID 19 thing hopefully will become a thing of the past soon. And what I mean by that is, there's three different stages of diseases, like really bad diseases, that happen to us, as people. One of those things is called an epidemic. An epidemic is a really bad disease or infection that affects a group of people in a community or town or, certain types of people or certain places of people. It's contained. That's an epidemic. When it becomes uncontained and it travels around countries, multiple countries, then it becomes what you call a pandemic. That's where we are. By the way, I've talked about this. If you follow me on social media, you should know of all these because I've talked about it, kind of the difference between epidemic, pandemic, and the third one, which is what we're probably going to have for with COVID. It's endemic. So, an epidemic is a really bad disease or infection that affects a lot of people in a community. A pandemic is when that disease or infection becomes, goes from country to country. Endemic means it's here to stay, like the flu. It means every year we're going to have to deal with it. And that's what COVID 19, with all the variants, are probably going to be. So, but the good news is that, hopefully by the summer, we should have enough vaccines for everybody. And, that's what, they're telling us, and you can get vaccinated. And then you can go live your life, happy and normal. And so I was very excited to see that. I can't wait to travel. I need a vacation. I haven't had one in a whole year. I need to get out and do some things, have some fun and so on and so forth. So, Celia, how are you? Celia Jackson Blackwell. Tanya, hey, Tanya, good to see you. I'll give it maybe a few more minutes. I know we changed from Monday through to Sunday. And so I'm glad, we did because it gives you more of an opportunity to join without the pressure of work and so on and so forth. So make sure, to join me every Sunday. It's going to be Sunday going forward. And if you can't watch it, make sure to go to the YouTube, my YouTube page, and you can always download it there. So, hey guys, Henry, that's my man. Okay, okay. I see all my people, all my people out here. Tell 5 more people or 10 more people. Bring 5 or 10 more people every week. This is stuff people should know. A lot of things we're talking about. And again, we're going to try to keep the show as short as possible. Sometimes it's just there's so much to talk about. There's so much that I can teach you because of my. I've been doing this a long time. I've been in finance for 30 years and running my own investment company for a financial planning company for 17 years. And so there's a lot that I've learned over that period of time working with very wealthy people and not so wealthy people that I'm teaching you. And so a big part of why I started the show was to help you, the 99%, because I noticed that as I help a lot of the wealthier people become wealthier, a lot of the people at the bottom they were struggling, they were trying, and many of them just didn't have the tools. So what I'm doing on this show is I'm giving you the tools. We're going to start with the basics, right? And that's what we've started with. The first three are the basics, right? The first was credit. The second was a bank account. And the third was now is emergency fund. That's what we're going to talk about today. If you have those things squared away and straightened out, you have the basics. And I'll tell you what I'm going to do. This is the fourth of our series show. The fifth show, which is next week, I'm going to take questions. There's no presentation. I always talk a lot. Now I want to hear you talk. I want to hear your questions. So, go to my social media channels and send me a question. We're going to answer as many questions as we can. Go to Instagram, go to Facebook, go to YouTube or Twitter, and just ask me a question. And I will answer those questions next week. So, again, we talked about credit, the power of credit. The second lecture was on how credit can be an amazing tool that helps strengthen you and make you a better person, and make you happier and raise your quality of life. We also then talked about, last week, bank account, how you spend. I showed you how a lot of people go to check cashers and money, payday lenders and pawn stores, and they're spending thousands and thousands of dollars. Federal Reserve said about $3,000 per year. That's 63 million people. Comes up to about over $700,000 you're spending per year. That should be going towards your emergency fund. The third basic is an emergency fund. And so today we're going to talk about an emergency fund. But before I start talking about an emergency fund, let me first define what an emergency fund is, right? So I live in a high-rise building. And hi, Sharon. Sharon from Maryland. I love Maryland. I was actually there about a year and a half ago. I loved it, and I look forward to it. I was actually going to do some investing down there. Real estate is, pretty decent in some parts of Baltimore. I was going to buy some stuff down there. It didn't happen, but I still have it on my watch list. Anyway, so I live in a high-rise building, right? Very high. I have a great view. And yesterday, I saw the window cleaners coming down from the floor above mine, and they were cleaning my windows from the outside. Dangerous job. But what I did notice was they had a safety net. It was a little cage, and they were also strapped. So they had a cage that acted as a safety net. God forbid anything ever happened and they tripped, the cage would catch them and the safety net would hold them. Your emergency fund is the same thing. Your emergency fund is your safety net in life. If you don't have one, you're going through life with no safety net. And any small mistake could bump you and you could fall. And sometimes when that slide happens, it's very difficult to catch yourself. So it's important to have that safety net in life. And that safety net is an emergency fund. An emergency fund is something which comes into play when an unexpected emergency happens. For example, your car goes out, or you need some electrical appliance in your house changed, or medical emergency, something that requires you. I'll give you examples with me. I've had two in the last few weeks. God knows, geez, these are expensive. So I have a couple of cars. I have two cars, right? And I drive a Rolls Royce, right? But it's not what you're thinking. It's about 5 or 6 years old. I bought the car 2 years old. I don't buy new cars. I'm a financial guy. Why spend money on a new car only to have it go down by $30,000 when when I drive it off the lot? I drive a Rolls Royce. It's an old car, but you wouldn't know because it looks new. I also have another car that's a Range Rover. It's about 15 years old. Yes, I believe in using my cars till they're almost dead. I drive a 15-year-old. It's a clean. I make sure it's clean and it looks like it's a great car, but it's an old car. I asked the guys at the valet guy in my building to go get the car, the Range Rover. And he calls me upstairs and he says, well, your car, it's not starting. It's starting. I a while because I'm at home all the time working. And so I had to call AAA. I had to buy a new battery. And that car, even though it's an old 15-year-old car, the parts are expensive. It's an expensive car. Range Rover is an expensive car. I had to pay those batteries, those big batteries, battery installation, and all those things cost me almost $400. If I didn't have an emergency fund, how would I have paid for that? A few weeks ago, actually about a month ago, it was cold in LA. Now, not compared to you guys on the East Coast or in Texas. My heart goes out to what you guys went through, but 48 degrees, 50 degrees, 52 degrees. That's cold in LA. It was cold. My heater went out, my HVAC, in the dead of what we consider dead of winter, which is 48, 50. And I had to call a repair guy. They come over and it cost me $1,200 to repair my HVAC. If I didn't have an emergency fund, how would I have made that payment? I wouldn't. I would have had to do what most people do when they don't have an emergency fund. And here's what they do. Most people, over 30% of people, when they don't have an emergency fund, they either use their credit card and they're going further into debt, which makes the problem worse because it's fixed rate debt you got to pay off. They borrow from friends and family. Look, I know what that is. I borrowed from friends. I borrowed, when I was in college, I borrowed money. Before college, I borrowed. I didn't have any money. I didn't have emergency fund. I was borrowing. And the third thing they do is a lot of people, they unfortunately are forced to sell things. So because you don't have an emergency fund, you may have to sell some things that you value, some of your clothes, some of your furniture, some of your nice shoes. Why? Today, I'm going to show you. I'm going to tell you what the problems are from building an emergency fund. I'm going to tell you how big the problem is. It's a significant problem. I'm going to show you how to correct that problem, how to start the process every month, month by month, building your emergency fund. And over a period of time, you're going to have an emergency fund. You're going to be secure. Your basics, your foundation, as long as you've gotten your credit in good order, as long as you don't do check cashers no more, no more check cash, no more payday lenders, and as long as you have an emergency fund, you have the basics. So today, we're going to talk about an emergency fund. How much should your emergency fund be? Just, I've heard many people talk about a lot of things. You've heard about the different numbers, 1 month, 8 months, 3 months, 9 months, 6 months. How much should your emergency fund be? Well, it depends. If you have a stable job, you're earning a steady paycheck, you have good insurance, disability insurance, life insurance for your family, you have things set, and your income is significant enough to support you and your family, then you need less of an emergency fund, maybe 3 months. But if you fall into any one of these categories, you need a significant amount. The categories I'm going to tell you about, you need a significant amount in your emergency fund. If you're a gig worker, if you drive an Uber, Airbnb, if you do any of those gigs, you need to have a significant emergency fund, probably about 6 months. Seasonal worker, like farmhands, who, over a period of, they work on the farm, or some people who work on cruise lines, seasonal, or some people who work in retail. Sometimes Macy's will hire thousands of people for the Christmas season, and then they let them go after Christmas. That's called a seasonal worker. Self-employed. If you work for yourself, there's no steady paycheck. You need a significantly larger, I'd say double the 3 months. That's about 6 months. One income family. If you're a man or a woman and you're supporting your family, and look, the roles have changed now. In the old days, growing up, it was the man is the provider. You're going to provide the income. You're going to provide the. Now women are doing it. Women are becoming the provider. A lot of women I know, including some on my farm, are actually the provider. They provide the income of the family, which is amazing. I mean, roles have changed. Women are very capable of doing this themselves. But if you are the sole provider, and either the man or the woman takes care of the kids at home, then you need to have a significant, a larger emergency fund. If you earn straight commissions, let's say you sell real estate or you sell insurance, and you make no income if you don't sell, you need to have a significant amount because there's no steady paycheck. Or emergency. If you have a chronic medical condition, diabetes or something like that, it requires you to go to the doctor. You never know when that emergency fund, that emergency is going to click in, and you have to up your expense that month. So it's important, if you fit any of those categories I just said, for you to have an emergency fund. Where should you put your emergency fund? Where should you keep it? You better not hear me tell you under the you better not tell me under the pillow, because I know after our conversation last week Monday, you learned that there's a much, much better place and a much, much better way to save. That's in a bank, but it's in one of those banks I showed you, or you doing your own research, gives you higher interest rate and no fees. That's where you want to put your emergency fund. And make sure when you put the money in that account, that savings account, it's a separate account. It's not lumped in with your other accounts, because you could easily just keep spending it. Make sure it's a separate account specifically for your emergency fund. So let me tell you some statistics on emergency fund and why I'm talking about it today and how severe the problem is. The average expense in America, the median, actually, we like median because it's closer to the average, it's closer to the middle. The median expense of a family in America is $5,102. The average family spends about $5,000 a month, which is a little over $60,000 a year. That's your expense. Now, you remember what I just said, that you want to save between 3 and 6 months of your expenses. 3 to 6 months of expenses. 3 months if you're in a secure job, two income household, high income household with lots of insurance, 3 months. But if you're in one of those categories, like a gig worker, 6 months. But if you have $60,000 in expenses, $5,000 a month, how much should you be saving? Well, do the math. Between $15,000 and $30,000. That's what the average American should be saving in their emergency fund today. Do you have 15,000? I see you guys on hey, Instagram. It's good to see you guys. Welcome. Please don't forget, I can't see you or interact with you, so please go to YouTube. And when you go to YouTube, make sure to subscribe so you get all this good stuff coming at you. Every week, every Sunday at 2 p.m., I'll be here giving you little droplets of wisdom and advice, things that'll help advance your life. But Sharon, how are you? How much do you have in your emergency fund? Cecilia, good to see you. I'll take your questions in a little bit, but you should have, based on the average, the median expenditure, $15,000 to $30,000. Forty% of Americans are not able to cover a $400 expense that comes suddenly. 40% of Americans, they can't cover that 40%, that $400. It also makes sense that I told you last week, the average payday lender, payday lender is $375. That ties in very, very directly to the fact that the average person doesn't have $375. They don't have $400. What's going on? %56% have less than $5,000 in savings. 1 out of 3 people, 33%, have less than $1,000 in savings. Who are these people who don't have emergency funds? It's the same old story. Sadly, the same old story. Minorities, lower income, and lower education. The people I'm trying to help. This shows for everyone to accept the fact that minorities and lower education are kind of synonymous. It's sad, so we got to lift this generation. The median bank balance, saving account balance, for people between $20,000 and $40,000 in income is $2,000, about $2,100. The average person that has that makes between 20 and 40,000 lower income has $2,100 in savings. The average person that makes between 80 and $90,000 has $20,000 in savings. Richer people have more savings and they have more of an emergency fund. That kind of makes sense, right? Okay. Education. People with a college degree have an average of $15,400 saved. People with a college degree have an average of $15,400 saved. People with only a high school diploma have $2,000, $2,500 actually saved. That's it. Your education level affects your income and affects your savings. But this is one that just blows everybody away. Race. Race is also an issue. In general, I told you the average is a little over $5,000. Well, the average American, between the rich and poor, has about $5,000 in their bank account. White people have about $8,000 on average. Hispanics, I'm sorry, median, not average. Averages distorts things. This is the median number. Average white person, $8,000. All of us have about 5,000. Average white person, about 8,000. Median Hispanic, 2,000. The median black person has $1,500 in savings. And that's skewed by those who are upper income. How about those who are lower income? What do we do? What's the problem? Why is there such a problem? If a lack of an emergency fund could be so devastating on your finance that it could take off it could take off your safety net if you don't have one, and you could drop. Why do so many people, 40%, not have $400 saved? It's a couple of things. People spend too much. And the average, not just spending too much, bad financial management. I talked last week about how you just keep swiping. People just keep swiping, and they don't keep a tab of the swipes. Checks bounce. They go to check cashes. Bad financial management. That's why you're in these sessions, for me to teach you. So that's the number one. Just not keeping a track. Look, it's not about income. I tell people all the time, it's not about how much you make. It's how much you keep that matters. I work with a lot of medical professionals. And sometimes I'll meet a young resident. That's after medical school. They go do training, and they're a young resident, and they make $40,000, $45,000. They don't pay them a lot. They work them to death, but they don't pay them a lot. It's like an internship. Almost, you're actually learning on the job. They're paying you to learn, but you're still a doctor. But they're paying you to learn, so they make $45,000. I tell those residents that there's going to come a time, right, when they're going to go out in the world and make $200,000, $300,000, $400,000. But when they're making $40,000, I tell them, I say, look, if you're not saving out of that $40,000, just a little bit, $400, if you're not saving, when you make $250,000, you won't save, because saving is a habit. And essentially what pretty much starts to happen is the more money you make, the more money you spend. What did I just say? It's not how much you make that matters. I have millionaires who spend millions and they have no net worth. And I have people who are thousandaires and they spend less than they make, and they're richer than those millionaires. It's not how much you make that matters. It's not how much you make that matters. It's how much of that you keep. So another reason is just people have emergencies quite. I had two over the last month and a half. The last emergency may have drained you, so you need to have a little bit more than you think you need in the beginning. Too much debt, the debt kind of does something where there's this fixed amount which comes out every single month, this fixed amount, and there's little left for emergencies. So today, I'm going to teach you the strategies, structures, and the strategies to build your emergency fund, to protect yourself, to create that bulletproof safety net so you can't fall if life throws you a curve. So get your pen and get your paper out. Let's talk a little bit. about some of these very, very important things. Number one, the ways to build an emergency fund. The best place to start: one, track your expenses, budget. If you make $1,000 and you go to the bank at the end of the month and you don't have $1,000, you got to ask yourself, where did the money go? So get your bank statement, get your credit card statement, track your expenses as you're spending money. Make sure to track them. Very, very important. You got to know how much you're working with. In order for you to build up an emergency fund, you got to know how much money you're spending. Set a monthly goal. It's not enough to just say, you know what, I'm going to save. No, give yourself a goal. That goal could, we already talked about, almost 6 months. That goal could, you don't have to aim big. Aim for something small. For example, if you make $60,000 a year, start with 2%, saving 2% per month. That's about $100. That's nothing. When the money comes into your paycheck, from your paycheck into your bank account, transfer into a separate account. Don't commingle accounts, right? Because that separate account, that's if you commingle your accounts, it's too easy to spend your emergency fund. So what you want to do is separate your emergency fund, and then have your bank, that 2% I just said, on the same day your paycheck hits every month, have your bank transfer that $100 into your emergency fund. If you're bad with handling money and you always want to spend, have somebody else manage it for you. Your mom, your sister, your cousin. Transfer it to somebody else, literally. But start. When you hit your monthly goal, reward yourself. It's okay to motivate and boost the part of the brain that needs rewards, because when you work hard, it's good to give yourself a break sometimes. One of my very close friends, she sometimes struggles with going to work out. She's a very busy doctor, and so she doesn't get the time to work out a lot. And she's always dieting, because if you're not working out, you got to diet. So she's always dieting. And she said, you know what? I cut out sugar. I cut out these things. I love sugar, but I cut it out. But whenever I work out, I motivate myself. After the workout, I reward myself by drinking a bottle of Coke. Coke is chock full of sugar. It ain't good for you. But she rewards herself with that small indulgence. And the next time she's going to work out, she remembers the Coke and the sugar she's going to get, and it motivates her. Reward yourself. Pay yourself first. I find too many people who are paying the mortgage, they're paying the credit card, they're paying the rents, they're paying the housekeeper, they're paying the government in taxes, they're paying everybody, the insurance company, they're paying everybody. You got to pay yourself first. So when that money hits your bank account, take your portion out before anybody else gets paid. That's the 2% we talked about. Take it out, move it into a separate account. That's paying yourself first. If you wake up at the end of the month, or you wake up at the end of the year, you don't have any money in the bank account, you're not working for yourself. You're working for somebody else, because you're paying, everybody's getting rich on you. Why? Pay yourself first. Automatic. Like I just said, boom, boom. It comes in, it goes out. It comes in, out. Not shoes and clothes, but your savings account. It goes from your paycheck into your bank account, into your emergency fund automatically. Reduce expenses. Ladies and gentlemen, this is one of the biggest ones, right? Reduce expenses. It is so important. When the pandemic started, I talked about this. I told you, take your credit card statement, take your bank statement. How many subscriptions do you have? How many gym subscriptions, newspaper subscriptions, Experian? I had so many subscriptions. I started cutting this down. I saved hundreds of dollars a month just by cutting out things I didn't need. I had Spotify and I had Apple Music. Why? Because Apple Music gave me 3 months free or 6 months free. I don't remember. And I just kept paying because I forgot. I'm paying for so many things. I just cut them all out. Cut out those subscriptions. Cancel your expensive TV. You don't need TV. There's so many streaming media services that you can. There's Netflix. I don't ever watch TV. So why do I need TV? I can get anything. I get all the news I need online. Shop around for everything. Go if you need to buy stuff like insurance, you can get a credit card. Shop around. When I got my mortgage, I went to 10 banks and I got the cheapest mortgage available, and I made them pay each other against each other. Shop around, pay down high interest credit cards and debt. There's a range of debt that's expensive to cheap. Mortgage debt is relatively cheap because it's tax deductible, and it's low because it's secured by your home. Credit cards are very expensive because they're not secured by anything except your credit. Pay down, your mortgage could be 3 or 4%. Your credit card could be 18 to 25%. Pay your credit card down faster. Reduce frequency of personal grooming. Like, we all like to be groomed. Got to get your hair done, get your nails, got to look pretty. I'll give you that. Got to look good. I bet you look good. But sometimes going to get your hair done every week or your nails done every week, it's a lot. If you cut out one of those trips or two of those, instead of every week, get it done every 2 weeks, put that money into your emergency fund. Downsize, right? If you're in an apartment you can't afford, you have a car you can't afford that you're driving. Now nobody drives anywhere. I mean, most people just take Uber. Most young kids, we hire these young millennials. They don't drive, they take Uber. The pandemic has changed how we work. Now, a lot of people don't necessarily drive to work. They work from home. Why are you paying the insurance on that car? Why do you even have that car? Get rid of it. Uber, whenever you need. Redeem points for cash. So instead of using, I went to Arkansas the other day, right? I didn't pay $1. The hotel, I got through hotels.com. I had some discounts on there. Plus, I had some points on my B of A card. My travel airfare, and Arkansas is expensive because you got to go through either Chicago or you got to go through Fort Worth. And it's a small airport. So it's pretty pricey. It's not cheap. And I paid with my American Express points. I didn't pay $1. Get another job if you need. I'm telling you, when I came to America, I had 3 jobs. I was an accountant, I was a waiter, and I was a tutor. I worked hard. I saved almost $25,000 before I went to Harvard Business School. I came in when I was 20. This was 24 years old. I saved a lot of money. Get another job if you need to. Upgrade your skills if you need to. Go to boot camp training. Go learn a new skill if you have to. You need an emergency fund. You need savings. This is your financial future. You can't keep taking it for granted that it's going to happen tomorrow or the day after. It may not. Move to a bank that gives you higher interest rate. I showed you how your bank could be the worst investment you ever made or one of the best. You could save $700,000. Go watch my show last week. By avoiding check cashes and pawn stores and all those other payday lenders, all those fees, right? Pick a bank. Again, you got to listen to last week's show. This is a progression. If you jump in the middle, it's better for you to go back and learn the first lesson, the second lesson, the third lesson, because we're building on these things. Next week is going to be even better. I'll tell you what next week is about. Actually, I think I already told you. I'll tell you again. Improve your credit. This is longer term. To get better loans, to pay less expenses, improve your credit. Do those things I told you in lesson number 1. These all things, they all go together. An emergency fund, your credit, and your bank account. And when a sudden expense pops up, before you dip into your emergency fund, ask yourself 3 questions. Number 1, is it urgent? Number 2, is it necessary? Number 3, is it unexpected? If you can't say yes, yes, yes to all 3, do not dip into your emergency fund. Now I'm going to take questions. And by the way, next week, next Sunday, it's going to be a different show. I'm not going to be talking to you about stuff that I came up with for you. I'm going to take your questions. So go to social media, go to all my social. I'm going to try to answer as many of your questions as I can. Go to my social media. Go to Instagram. I'm on david.adefeso. Go to YouTube. Go to Twitter. And go to Facebook. I'm all over there. Send me a question. Send me what you want me to answer. Any questions that's been bugging you. I will answer your question next week. So next week, there's no script. There's the only homework you have. I always give you homework, right? Is figure out a question you want me to answer. Could be more than one. And ask, send it to me on social. I read all my social media. I don't always answer, but I read all of them. I get all your answers. I get all your responses. So do we want to take any questions? Do we have enough time for any questions? Somebody asked Olu, on what email can we reach you for advice if you have a decent amount of emergency funds and you try to invest it? Well, I'll tell you what. Send me a DM, or send me. I read my DMs, or send me an email. Send me. So you send it to me on social media or DM. I'll grab it over there. Lady Ms. Goldwing, I've paid off all my debts except student loans. My average debt is $2,000. Yep. You got to work on paying that debt off. You really have to. We don't like student loans very much. Is your emergency fund good to pay your rent when you're living alone? No. Your emergency fund is not supposed to be for things that you should be paying for by yourself normally. Remember those three questions? Is it urgent? Is it necessary? Is it unexplained? For your rent, it is necessary. And if it's the end of the month, it is urgent, but it's not unexpected. You knew you were going to have rent to pay. So try not to use your emergency fund for things that are not emergencies. Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you again. Next week is all going to be questions. So don't forget, join me. First of all, before you guys leave, I need you to do something for me. Make sure to all subscribe. We have over 5,000 people on this subscribed. Over five, that should be 50,000. And soon 500,000. The information I'm giving you is really valuable. So make sure to subscribe and bring five people next week. Tell five of your friends, tell five of your families, you have children, you have a parent, tell them I'm teaching them about finance and how to boost themselves from the 99 to the 1%. So make sure to subscribe and join me tomorrow. Love you very much. Bye-bye.